So remember that if we receive, especially if we are working from scratch, we don't have this issue. But if we receive a file from other company or from other section in our company, then we have to check, because the goal is to run an energy simulation. So imagine that architects, these terrible persons, are working on a file and they don't know anything about energy, about spaces, about anything. They are just modeling. So we receive this, and if we want to run an energy simulation, then we have to check that everything is correct. So first, I told you that we have here load reports, because this file was saved in the 2020 version, and there was a different way to run the energy simulation. First thing, I'm going to delete this because well, now there is a different system, so I don't want to mix concepts. So let's delete it. The second thing, we have to check the schedules. So here we have schedules, and you see that we have different space schedules. These are all the spaces that we have created, and it's not clear. Okay, so here we have spaces without name, and we have spaces that are not placed. What does it mean? When we have not placed spaces, probably there are spaces that are not within a room. Sometimes we click somewhere and we create a space there in the middle of nowhere. So this is a not placed space. And sometimes we delete space and it's even there. So deleting the space doesn't mean that it's out of the file. It's there. I think this is something wrong in Revit. But if we want to delete permanently space, then we have to come here to the schedule. And then we have redundant spaces. You remember that on Monday, I showed you how we can have two spaces on the same room, or in the same room. So that would be a redundant space. Okay, so this is not acceptable. If we have this, we can't run a simulation, basically because we don't have any control on the space. So delete everything. So select all the spaces, right click, delete row. Well, if you select everything, you delete everything. And now we are free of spaces. Okay, so now that's in the other schedules, we don't have anything. So since I'm working with this file, I'm going to delete all the schedules here, and that's it. And I'm going to start creating my spaces from scratch. So remember that you have to click on level 0. We have to go to analyze. Again, make sure that you have this solar, this perform solar analysis on model surfaces. If you have this this tool, that means that this tool is installed in your Revit. It doesn't show up by default. Okay, I think I have installed all this in all the computers. But if you don't, or if you want to install Revit on your laptop, make sure that you install this plugin or this addition, because by default, it's not in Revit. So we are here, and then we have to start organizing spaces. So check or select space, and place space automatically. I don't want that, okay? So I want to control my, my spaces. Those are the boundaries, and don't want it. Yes.
You have to change the upper limit.
I have to change the upper limit. Yes, so that's another. Upper limit is 0 and the limit offset is 0. So we are on level 0. The upper limit would be level 10, and I don't want an offset. And now thank you. So be careful, because by default, Revit has this option. So you have to make sure that before placing anything and before clicking, because if you click something, I'm going to do it. Okay. So imagine that I'm here, the upper, I'm going to leave this. It was 2 and the upper level was 0. If you get nervous, you click here and you have placed a space somewhere, because if you go to schedules, and then you open a new schedule, you select spaces, and you select area and name at least. Okay, we have a space. It's a not enclosed space. So I have created space somewhere and I'm not aware of that. And when Revit runs the energy simulation, it takes into account that space. Okay, so that's why we have to be very careful. So let's delete it again. Okay. So probably before doing this, if I click space and if by default I have this, it's because the default conditions are not good. So I'm level 0, so I want a 0 offset and I want an upper limit, level 10. And then I select here and I can click. And multiple spaces are in the same enclosed region. Oh, I know, I will figure it out. And now if I create spaces, make sure that you change the name. Okay, so here we have to, by default, we have a number and space. I told you that we can create a mechanical room. And then if this is an office building, make sure that we change all the space. Office 1, office 2, and of a meeting room. Okay, so use a name that it's relevant. Don't say space 1, space 2, space 3, because if you have a big building, you don't know anything. When we have different floors, it's good using first floor space, whatever, second floor space. We have to go to control the spaces that we are creating. If we look at the section, because we have to see this building, okay, this is it. There's a space here. We have to delete it, but we have to create a schedule and then we have to figure out where that space is. Spaces, area, name. There are other things that we will use, but just to find out where that, yes, so there's a not placed space here. Okay, so we have to get rid of it. And now we have the mechanical room, the office 1, office 2, and the meeting room. Okay, be careful with that. And then in the section, we see that we have a false ceiling here. We have the offices here, and this can be a lobby. Okay, so but this space goes from level 0 to level 12. So in section, we can't place spaces. It would be useful, but we're not allowed to do that. We have to use a level plan view. So here we insert this one, and we name that space as lobby or hallway or whatever. Okay. Does it change the schedule automatically? Let's find out. Yeah, it changes. Okay, so that's good. Open the schedule and everything you do, you have it here. So even if you create a space that it's not right, it will show up here. So make sure that you open this space schedule from time to time, and then you can make sure that all the spaces are the spaces that you want to create. Okay. But now we have something up. By the way, this one, it has to go to level 12. Again, you have to check the plan view, then you have to check the section, because if that space on level 0 doesn't get up to the roof, there will be something weird in the calculations. You see that we have a false ceiling here. Okay. So what do we do? And this is new. I didn't explain that on Monday. What do we do with this space above the false ceiling? Well, in theory, that space, it's not heated. We don't have a heating system there. We have ducts and a lot of things, but it's a space that it's not heated. So this is the first property that we have to control on our spaces. So let's select this one. We have the lobby. And what do we have here? We have Plenum. What is Plenum? Plenum is precisely the space that we have above the false ceiling. Okay, so this is a lobby. So this is not a plenum. I don't know if by default we have this. It depends on the Revit version, but make sure that you click here, and then you click that it's an occupied space. Okay, so now we have to differentiate between spaces that are occupied and spaces that are not occupied in terms of people. Okay, so this is an office, so it's not a plenum, and it's occupied. And then we have to do the same thing with all the spaces here. This one is not a plenum, it's occupied. This one. And this one. Okay, so we are not running a simulation yet because you see that we have to check a lot of things before running the simulation. First, we have to check that we only have the spaces that we want. Second, in the section, we have to check that the starting and the end point of the level is the right one. And then we have to check the category of that space. So by default, we can have occupied zone or we can have a plenum. It depends. We are going to create a space here, and that space will be a plenum. Okay, so the space that we create here above the false ceiling, it will be a plenum. We have to check something else. We have to check the category of our of the envelope of that space, or the elements surrounding the space. If you click here, the first thing we have to check is, okay, yes, you see this room bounding, it has to be on. By default, everything that we create is a room bounding. The walls, the floor. Okay, what about the false ceiling? Let's check the false ceiling, and it's a room bounding as well. If it wasn't a room bounding, and this is something that we have to decide, maybe doing this is too complicated, because does it affect having an unheated space above the false ceiling? Does it affect the thermal performance? It affects, but is it significant? Sometimes it's not. It depends on the space. If we have a 1 foot space above the ceiling, probably it doesn't affect that much. If we have an attic, and in single family houses under the roof we have an attic, and this attic is high enough, probably, and if it's ventilated, probably that will affect the performance. Okay. Hello. Sometimes, I mean, if we don't want to make things complicated, you can decide that the false ceiling is not a room bounding, and then this level is up to level 12. You see what it means? It's our decision. The more accurate, the better. So if you are working with your capstone project, you should take into account the false ceiling as a room bounding. But sometimes it's a lot of work, because it takes a lot of work, and the results are not that relevant. But anyway, when in doubt, work. Okay, so this is what we have to do. So I'm going to undo what I did, consider this as a room bounding, and make sure that here we have a level, that it's an office, because the space that we have here, it's not an office, it's something different. So how can we deal with that space here? We need to create another level. Okay, so there's another level that goes from this point, the upper point of the false ceiling, up to level 12. So I need to do this. I need to copy, and I'll copy this level up to this point. And well, now this is a mess because we have two levels too close to each other. So I'm going to change the scale. And I'm going to change, there's an option here. Okay, so I want to differentiate between these two levels. This is level 10, which is the ceiling of this office. And then we have this level. And just to make sure that we control things, naming things, again, it's important. Let's call this plenum. And if you have different floors and you have different plenums, or you have different levels, I would name this plenum 10 feet and 2.5 inches. Yes. I did it, but sometimes it doesn't work with me. So let me try again. Okay, if you select the level, do you have this point here? There's a tiny, so click there, and now you can select this dot, and then you can move it. Okay, but sometimes it's, if you use another scale, something like that, it's a mess. And sometimes you select this, and you don't see that dot. Okay, so. Okay, this level, it's the plenum, and now we have to make sure that this plenum, it's a floor plan view. It's not there, so we have to go to view, floor plans or plan views, and now we have the plenum here. It's 10, and again, don't call it plenum, because if you do that, and you have different levels with different plenums, then you don't know where you are. So now we have this, and it's not clear because here we don't see the limits of that plenum. So I think we can work with the view range, edit, and we have by default we have these numbers. Okay, what? Before that, let's check this. What's the size of this plenum? Is from level 10 and 2 inches to level 12. So it's less than, this plenum is less than 2 foot height. Okay, so we are working with the roof now. This is the roof that we have created. This is level 12. And then there is a false ceiling here. And this level, it's level 10, 2.5. Okay, so we need a floor plan between these two lines. So what we have to cut here, and we have to look down. Okay, so if we just want to see the plenum, what should I do? This distance can be 1 foot. And this is what we have to do. We have to select first the cut distance. So let's go to plenum, view range. The offset, this is the cut plane. So the offset is 4 feet by default. So we are here and the cut plane is above the roof. Doesn't make sense. So we have to make sure that this cut plane is within the plenum. If it's 2 feet, so 1 foot will work. So let's type here 1 foot. And then to make it simple, the top, make it 0. The bottom offset 0, and the view depth is 0. So let's apply. Top, keep the cut plane. What the top click? Okay, level above. Select this one, the top level above, and the bottom level. No, we can associate it with the Plenum. Apply. Okay, works. Okay, so that's why we have to work a lot to be very accurate in these thermal simulations. We have to set a lot of things that by default are not well in Revit. Okay, so make sure that we are here. We are on this level, Plenum. The view range, it's like this. The level above is level 12. That's fine. The cut plane is within the width of the Plenum. If we have 2 feet, 1 foot, it's enough. And then the bottom is the Plenum level, and this offset is 0. Are we ready to place spaces here? Let's find out. Analyze space. Okay, it works, great, but be careful because here we have level, it's Plenum, the upper limit is Plenum, and the offset is 10 feet. So if we do that, we are going to create a space that it's 10 foot tall. We don't want that. So the upper limit has to be 12, and the offset, it has to be 0. Okay, so that level goes from the Plenum level, this one, up to level 12. And I think we are ready to place, yeah, we have this 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why does it happen? Visibility graphics. In visibility graphics, we have to make sure that spaces are on, but click here, and we have to see the interior and the reference, and then we apply, and then we see the green. So there are a lot of things to, so we have to be very thorough, because sometimes we panic and we say, oh, the spaces are not there, and you start clicking, clack, 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 and you create like 5 spaces on the same room. And okay, so before clicking, just make sure that everything works. The visibility graphics, the view range, the level we are in, the upper and the lower limit of the level. So we have to check a lot of things. And now we have to name it. And because by default, this is a Plenum, so that's fine. Okay, so we don't have to change that. But I would change the space. So this is Plenum, and this was above the mechanical room. That was the Plenum above Office 1. Yes. Let me finish this, and I'll be with you. Okay? This is Plenum on the Office 1. The Plenum. This is Plenum Office 2. And this was the Plenum on the meeting room. Again, I'm very bad at naming things, but make sure that you have this. Let's check the section. And if we check the section, that's fine. We have the lobby that goes from level 0 to level 12. And we have this office that goes from level 0 to level 10. And we have the Plenum level that goes from level 10, from level Plenum to level 12. Okay, so now we can, yeah, we are done with defining spaces. And if we open the space schedule, everything has a name. So there is not a space that I didn't want to create. We have the mechanical room, Office 1, Office 2, meeting room, lobby, and then we have the Plenum, 4 Plenums. We don't have a Plenum above the lobby. Okay, so there is no Plenum here because the false ceiling is just affecting this mechanical room.
Mm.